Hey there, Joshua Austin here with the Dentistry IQ Product Navigator newsletter. I want to talk to you really quickly today about polishing posterior composites. So when I look at polishing of composites, I think there's a big difference between anterior composites and posterior composites. With anterior composites, I'm going to have a multi-step polishing system. I think you probably will too, whether that's soft flex discs, whether that's one of Shofu's products, whether that's Enhanced Points and Pogo. There's a number of products out there. But I think with anteriors, you're probably going to be going sort of through, from a coarse to fine polishing system that has multiple steps. Well, with posterior composites, we probably don't need all that much. Although it would be great to spend that much time on posterior composites, let's face it, they're kind of the highest overhead procedures that we do. The reimbursement rates are the smallest and they take us time. And so I think anything that we can do to get a nice composite, to get a nice restoration but reduce the time on it is a really good thing. And so I think that polishing in one step is a big part of that. So when I look at polishing posterior composites in one step, I also look at what the disposable prices are on that. Is the polisher that I'm using, can it be used more than once, or is it a one-time use thing? And I think they're both okay. I see points in both of them. The one-time use types of polishers tend to be a little bit more expensive, and they raise your overhead per patient. I really like the OptraPol Next Generation by Ivoclar. Polishes very, very nicely. There's a nice selection of points in the assortment, and you can autoclave them or sterilize them 20 times. So you can get a lot of uses out of one. The per polisher cost is a little bit more expensive than some of the disposables, but per use, your cost goes down pretty dramatically when you do that. So I'm going to give you guys a real quick kind of demo of OptraPol Next Generation on an occlusal composite. I think it's a really nice option if you're looking for a single step polishing for posterior composites. I think it works really well. Let's go to the hands-on. Okay, so we're going to be taking a look today at OptraPol Next Generation Composite Polishers by Ivoclar. Here is the kit that comes in their assortment, and if you see here, they really send you a nice selection of shapes. You've got discs. These work really great for anteriors, obviously. And if you want to work on kind of deep grooves and things like that, you can do some nice things with the disc. Cups are really great on cusp tips and things like that. And then you've got two different sizes of points. You've got a larger point here, and then a smaller point here. And so these are a really nice way to polish your composites in one step. So this is really great for posteriors, where one step polishing probably is really, quite honestly, good enough. You don't need to do a 3 or 4 step point type of polishing system. So I placed just kind of a typical occluso-lingual composite in this dental form here, and so we're going to polish this up. I've kind of already done some finishing and some anatomy with a 12 fluted carbide finishing burr, specifically a 7404. There are 12 fluted carbide finishing burrs on the market, and there's 20 fluted carbide finishing burrs. I think 12 fluted works really well for shaping, adjusting occlusion and shaping anatomy on posterior composites. 20 fluted carbide finishing burrs are really what you need to be doing to kind of polish enamel, to remove, let's say, Invisalign buttons, or remove resin cement for brackets or orthodontic appliances, things of that sort. The more flutes, the kind of reduce the cutting power, and so I think a 12 fluted carbide burr is going to be really nice for finishing and doing some anatomy and things like that. As far as polishing goes, I'm gonna use this smaller point here And we're going to do this, I do this on a low speed. I've got a electronic handpiece system here, and you want to check with your manufacturer specifications and your particular unit. But on mine, I'm going to be doing about 10,000 RPMs, and with this point, I'm just going to kind of be taking this in and out, you know, and just lightly kind of feathering those margins and polishing along that anatomy that I put in with that burr. Now, one of my specialties, one thing, you know, that I tend to be really good at is putting really nice anatomy in restorations and then grinding all of that really nice anatomy away when I adjust occlusion. Now, I'm veiled out here a little bit because I'm using a dentiform and there's no occlusion to adjust. So I can really put a nice anatomy into this and not have to worry about grinding it out later, which tends to be a pretty typical thing that happens in my office, and I'm probably not the only one that runs into that. But you know, I just kind of work this kind of back and forth and over. And I think these OptraPols do a really nice job of bringing out luster in these composites. Now, I used a pretty typical kind of leading brand posterior composite here that I think many of you probably use. So it's not anything special or spectacular. But when I clean this off in a minute here, I think everybody will notice how nice and smooth it is, and I think, you know, that's a credit to the OptraPol polishers. Okay, so I'm going to rinse this off and clean it up here. So if you take a look here, I'm going to try to focus in on that. I think that's a really nice result there for a posterior composite. So I really like the OptraPol next generation here by Ivoclar. I think they make a really nice product. I think their kit is nice. Some of the other things I like about it are these are multi-use. So this is a single step, and these are multi-use. These can be autoclaved up to 20 times. So I think that's a really nice feature. You know, the single-use ones are all fine and good, but they can get costly. And the more single-use things you use, sort of the more your per use or per patient cost goes up. So, you know, I think on something like posterior composites, where, let's be honest, probably, you know, especially if you're on any PPO fee schedules or accepting, you know, dental insurance of any kind, you know, a lot of times posterior composites are kind of a break-even proposition. And so, you know, you want to be able to give a nice result, you want to be able to do it quickly, and you want to be able to do it without having to really run up your per-use disposable cost. And so I think OptraPol is a nice way to do that. You know, as you can see, you know, I did a pretty good amount of polishing here. Let's see if I can get that in focus. You know, and that point still looks pretty good. So, you know, multi-use, about 20 uses or so. They can be autoclaved, you know, about 20 times. And I think it's a really nice solution without having to break into you know, multi-step kind of polishing process to give a really nice result for a posterior composite polishing. Once again, Joshua Austin, Dentistry IQ Product Navigator Newsletter. You guys have a great rest of the day.